Welcome to Knowledge Hivin, first episode. So, this is the show where we explore the evolving world of work, one trend at a time. I'm your host, Lisa Sims. I'm the CEO of Knowledge Hive. And today we're diving into a shift that's changing the game for businesses of all sizes. Why companies are turning to freelance talent, fractional executives, and expert contractors instead of hiring full time employees. Whether you're a business leader, a startup founder, or a freelancer investigating this new economy, today's episode is packed with insights that you really won't want to miss. Before we get started, I want to share my, well, that's cool story thanks to Knowledge Hive. This is the first time you've joined me. Let me do a 30-second pitch on what is Knowledge Hive after all. Knowledge Hive is an on-demand marketplace for top-tier professionals that are willing to share what they know with others and their expertise. And so if you're looking for help, you're called a seeker. And if you are one of the experts that's willing to share your business, you are a hiver. So this week, I noticed a company that was seeking unbiased advice on the best firewall to purchase for their company. They were matched up with one of our hivers who was a chief information security officer with over 30 years of experience. They said they were so overwhelmed with the number of vendors that were coming after them with my solution is the best solution that they just couldn't get their arms wrapped around which way to go. So they hired our hiver, our subject matter expert, for 2 hours. And then they gave him a 5 out of 5 rating. So evidently he solved their problem. Can't ask for better than a 5 out of 5. I love stories like this. These are the great kind of use cases that will hopefully continue to evolve. And we'll share one of these with you every week just to kind of help you wrap your brain around how to use our platform. So now let's just jump into this week's topic. So the workforce is changing. I mean, it's not the same as it was. I think that COVID really changed a lot. The traditional 9 to 5 is no longer the default. In fact, way more companies, from scrappy startups to Fortune 500s, are really rethinking the way that they build teams. Forbes magazine recently supported that 2025 report reveals 91% of companies have maintained or increased their use of freelancing over the last 3 years, and 52% actually explicitly increasing their freelance utilization. And that's really kind of heavy in finance, operations, marketing, strategy. And now, especially with our platform, we're seeing a lot more of the executive or fractional C-suite. So, what's driving the shift? It's basically flexibility. It's the new currency. So let's face it, the pace of business is faster than ever. Companies need to be able to pivot really quickly, especially with AI and everything else that's coming around. We need to be able to scale up, scale down on demand, accessing specialized skills without bloating their payroll, having to pay for these $200,000 and $300,000 a year jobs and all of the benefits that go with them. So they're looking for where freelancers and fractional experts can come in to solve these short-term problems. Imagine hiring a seasoned CFO, but just for 10 hours a week. That's a fractional executive. They bring high-level insight without the full-time salary or the long-term commitment, which again, kind of try and buy. There's a lot of try and buy out there. And so you can actually try and buy even a fractional executive. A go-to market strategist for a product launch. Do you really want to put that person on payroll? No. But being able to hire a consultant for just a few months and not for 3 years, that is a much more palatable way to engage. So, and it's that kind of flexity is so invaluable, especially for startups. and small to medium businesses who just can't afford a full executive team. Now, what about quality over quantity? One of the biggest misconceptions about freelancing is that somehow it's lesser than full time work. And in reality, it's actually the opposite. Experienced consultants, they come with years of specialized experience, diverse industry exposure, and the ability to hit the ground running. They're not bogged down by internal politics, onboarding processes, and the value is tied directly to their performance. And that is so much a win for both sides. Again, coming in, being very tunnel focused on the issue or the project at hand, have very specific goals for that project, completing it, and then moving on. And so lastly, what are the benefits to businesses? Why again are people shifting more and more this way? So let's break down the top benefits of this model. I've talked about it already. Cost efficiency, no overhead for benefits, office space, cell phones, etc., and no long-term salaries. And then speed, being able to get projects up and running without all of the onboarding and all of that fun stuff that comes with a full-time employee. And then having the expertise on demand, having the ability to go in and actually look across the nation for somebody that you need for your project versus somebody that lives within your zip code. That is a very different dynamic that really has just come about. Again, I think since COVID, we've seen more and more of that as an acceptable practice where I can have somebody working on my team that's thousands of miles away from me, but they're still an integral part of my team. And then last is scalability. You know what your budget is. Being able to say, I need to use this person for 10 hours because I have XYZ budget and that fits in my budget, versus having to make that commitment or sign a consultancy contract where you're just kind of stuck, right? So it's a model that it's leaner, it's smarter, and in most cases, it's way more effective. On the other hand, what is the rise of a portfolio career? More professionals are choosing to build portfolio careers. And what does that mean? It means combining multiple freelance or part time roles into a custom fit career path. And instead of working for one company, they work for several. So they're actually learning and building their expertise in many different industries that they wouldn't have an opportunity to do otherwise, or even in different lines of business. For instance, a project manager maybe is doing a project for a medical client rather than an industrial client. So it's a very different dynamic, and they are cross training themselves as well. So, and it's empowering and it's entrepreneurial and it's redefining what success looks like today. And then, in some cases, full time still makes sense. So, full time hires aren't going away. There's still a place for dedicated in house teams, especially for roles that really require deep institutional knowledge or long term continuity. The key is knowing when to hire full time and then when to leverage external expertise. And a lot of companies, smart companies, are really, really learning how to do both. So, final thoughts. The workforce is evolving. Companies that adapt to this workforce will thrive. You blend full-time teams and on-demand talent, from fractional executives all the way to freelance specialists. You can really unlock flexibility, innovation, and efficiency like never before. Whether you're hiring, whether you're freelancing, or somewhere in between, the future of work isn't coming, it's already here. That's it for today's episode of Knowledge Hivin. If you enjoy this conversation, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, leave a review whenever you get your podcasts. And then you got a question or a topic you want us to cover, you put it down in the comments. And that's all I've got. Visit us at knowledgehive.co. Until next time, we are Knowledge as a Service, and I'm Lisa Sims, Knowledge Hivin.